The waiter asked me twice if I wanted to keep the second chair. I told him no. Just take it. Get it out of my sight. It sat there like a witness, like it was staring at me, like it knew I'd lost before the night even began. Everyone else was paired up. Laughter, hand-holding, small talk about ski cabins and Q1 goals. And me? I was trying not to shake while buttering cold bread. She had walked in 30 minutes earlier, not even looking back when I said I'd catch up. Something about her phone dying and needing to check in with Jess, which, as it turns out, wasn't even in the building. I watched her across the room. You ever see someone switch masks so fast, you wonder if you even know what their real face looks like? She wasn't with her usual group. She wasn't near HR. She wasn't by the punch bowl like every other year. She was by him. I didn't know his name at the time, just his silhouette. Tall, confident, those rolled-up sleeves that scream I'm too cool for jackets. He leaned into her space like they shared a secret. She laughed. She reached for his arm once. Then again. Then again. Over and over like her touch had forgotten who it belonged to. She didn't glance around the room. She didn't look for me. At one point, she whispered something in his ear and he winced, but in a way that made him smile afterward. That kind of smile that starts with a no way and ends in, let's find out anyway. I didn't confront her. I didn't stand up. I just sat there, one glass of wine, untouched steak, and my heart beating like it wanted out. And then I left. Not with a bang. Not with a goodbye. Just a quiet, cold exit past a coat rack and some finance guy who asked, "Heading out already?" Yeah. But here's the thing. I didn't go home. I waited outside. Behind the building, by the alley where the staff smoked. It was stupid. I know it was stupid. But I wanted to see if she'd notice I was gone. 15 minutes passed. Then 20. Then I saw them. He came out first. Checked his phone. Waited. And then she followed. Still smiling. Still fixing her lipstick with her phone screen. She got into his car like she'd done it before. And they drove off. That was 2 hours ago. And I'm still sitting in my own car, parked behind a diner 6 blocks away, wondering if this is what betrayal feels like. Not rage, not screaming. Just this awful, slow silence inside your chest. But the part one haven't told you yet? The real reason I'm shaking? It's what I saw in the backseat of his car when they pulled away. And no, it wasn't what you think. It was worse. I didn't blink when the car pulled away. I don't even think I breathed. I was so focused, no, obsessed, with those final seconds when the taillights turned and her shadow disappeared behind tinted glass. But the reason I couldn't move wasn't because she left with him. It was because of what I saw in the back seat. There was a box. A small black one. Rectangular. No labels. Just sitting there like it belonged, like it had been waiting. It wouldn't have meant anything, except I'd seen that box before. In our closet. On the top shelf behind her hiking gear. She told me once it was her privacy box. Said it held letters from her father and a few old photos she didn't want to look at anymore. That was over a year ago. So why was it in his car? It clicked. Hard. This wasn't some innocent flirtation gone too far. This wasn't wine-fueled small talk between colleagues. She brought a part of her real life into his car. Something she used to protect. Something I was never even allowed to touch. That black box meant something. That car wasn't just transportation. It was transition. A bridge between two worlds she thought would never cross. But I'd seen it. And now I couldn't unsee it. I sat there gripping the wheel, trying to piece it all together. Did she know I saw her? Was she testing me? Or was I just so invisible now that even my absence didn't echo in her world? I didn't go home. Instead, I drove to the one place I used to feel like myself, the 24-hour grocery store where I used to stop after late shifts back when we still shared laughs over midnight snacks. It's funny how fluorescent lights and freezer aisle music can feel safer than your own bed. I walked the aisles like a ghost. Bought a pack of breath mints and a bottle of ginger ale. I had no idea why. Maybe because it made me feel like I had purpose for 5 minutes. Then my phone buzzed. It was her. One message. Just one. Hey, everything okay? Didn't see you leave. Thought you went to the car. No apology. No concern. Just that fake casual tone like I'd stepped out to take a call or grab a charger. Like I hadn't just watched her disappear with another man. I didn't answer. Instead, I scrolled through her older messages. She deleted a whole thread. One I knew existed 2 nights ago because I'd glanced at it accidentally when she showed me a meme. It was from someone named Lane T. I remembered because the name was saved with a lightning bolt emoji, not a typical coworker label. I opened her email next. She was still logged in on my phone from years ago when we shared calendars. I never logged out. She probably forgot. That's when I found something else. An email thread, archived, but not deleted. Subject line, confirmed, Wednesday reservation for 2 under Tanner's. My stomach turned. That's our anniversary date. Or it was. She hadn't made any plans with me. In fact, she told me she had a late strategy meeting that night and suggested we celebrate over the weekend instead. But she had a reservation. With him. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there in the parking lot, the ginger ale fizzing in my lap, and I felt hollow, like my ribs were just scaffolding holding up lies I hadn't figured out yet. That night, I slept in my car. Not because I had to, but because I couldn't walk back into a house built on silence. And in the morning, she sent another text. You coming home soon? I saved you some leftover cake. Cake. She still had frosting on her fingers while I was unraveling in a grocery store lot. But I was done guessing. I had to know the truth. So I called someone I never thought I'd involve, someone she'd never expect. And what he told me, it burned through my last thread of denial. I hesitated for almost an hour before dialing. I kept opening and closing the contact, my thumb hovering over the screen like I was trying to disarm a bomb. Because once I made that call, I knew there was no going back. No pretending. No rewinding. Just the ugly sound of confirmation. If he picked up. You see, the name I was staring at wasn't hers. It was his. Clay Tanner. The man from the party. The one she walked out with. The one whose sleeve she touched like she was auditioning for a life that didn't include me. Now here's the weird part. I'd never met him before. Not officially. But I'd heard his name enough. He was a new account manager who'd been assigned to restructure vertical partnerships, whatever that means. Renee had mentioned him once or twice, always in a casual tone, the kind of casual that feels too rehearsed. But what got to me was how her coworkers looked at him at the party, like they all knew something. Something I was late to figure out. I didn't know what I expected him to say when he picked up. Maybe he'd hang up. Maybe he'd laugh. But what I didn't expect was guilt. He answered after 2 rings. His voice was groggy, like I'd woken him. I asked, "Is this Clay?" And he hesitated for a second before saying, "Yeah, who's this?" I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just said, "This is Renee's husband." And everything went quiet. No noise. Not even breathing. I thought the line had dropped until I heard him exhale, slow and sharp, like someone stepping into cold water. "I figured you'd call eventually," he said. That was it. No confusion. No denial. Just acceptance. And that was somehow worse than anything else. I asked him how long. I needed a number. A timeline. Something to frame the wreckage around. He didn't give one. Instead, he said, "Look, man, I didn't know she was married when it started. She never said a word until recently." That, until recently, hit like a gut punch. Because that meant it wasn't just some stupid drunken thing from last night. This was ongoing. I asked him where they go. He listed off a few places. A private wine bar on Larchmont. A mid-tier hotel that doesn't print room keys with room numbers on them. A dog park. Yeah, a dog park, where they sat in his car pretending to watch other people's pets while she vented about her marriage. He said that part with a wince in his voice, like he realized mid-sentence just how low it all sounded. "She told me she was leaving you," he added. And I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it sounded so scripted. So textbook. How many times had that phrase been used in history by people tearing someone else's life apart? She told him she was leaving me, while she still came home and kissed my forehead goodnight. I didn't say much after that. I just thanked him for his honesty, even though the word tasted like ash. Before I hung up, he asked, "Are you okay?" And that broke something in me. Because no, I wasn't. I wasn't okay at all. After I ended the call, I sat in my car staring at nothing. It was still parked behind that diner, like time had stopped since the night before. In a way, it had. I was no longer someone's husband. I was just a guy sitting alone with too much truth and nowhere to put it. I didn't go home. Not yet. Instead, I went to a park near the edge of town. Somewhere quiet. I just walked. No destination. No thoughts. Just steps. The sky was gray, the kind that never commits to rain but makes you wish it would. Then my phone buzzed again. But this time, it wasn't from her. It was from an unknown number. "I thought you should know what she left behind in his car." That message changed everything. Because what followed wasn't just a betrayal, it was a reveal. That text sat on my screen like it was glowing hotter than the phone could handle. "I thought you should know what she left behind in his car." No name. No context. Just a message that felt like a loaded gun in my pocket. My first thought was Clay, maybe he wasn't done talking. Maybe his guilt came with receipts. But when I opened the attachment, it wasn't from him. It was a photo, and in it was her, my wife, my Renee, wearing the same dress from the party, sitting in the passenger seat of Clay's Lexus, smiling, no, beaming, like she'd just gotten everything she ever wanted. But that wasn't the part that shattered me. It was what was in her lap. She was holding a worn-out, cracked leather-bound notebook. My notebook. The one I'd kept in my nightstand drawer since before we were married. The one I used to write things I never said out loud, fears, dreams, dumb poetry I hoped she'd never see. I hadn't opened it in months. Maybe longer. I forgot it even existed. But now she had it. And she'd taken it with her. Why? Why that? Out of all the things in our home, why steal something that was mine, something I'd buried under years of quiet shame? I stared at the photo for a full minute before I realized something else. The photo wasn't taken by her or by Clay. It was taken through the back window. Slight blur, angled from behind. A third person was there. Someone had been watching them from outside the car. And now they were watching me. I called the number. It rang once and went a voicemail. The message was generic, robotic. No name. No clues. I texted back. Who is this? No answer. Just silence. So I zoomed in on the photo. Tiny reflections in the window. Building signage. Brick pattern. After 10 minutes of squinting and cross-referencing Google Maps, I figured it out. The photo was taken behind a dry cleaner on Marlowe Street, 3 blocks from her office. I drove straight there. My heart was a fist in my throat the whole way. I don't even remember stopping at lights. When I arrived, the alley behind the dry cleaner looked ordinary. Trash bins. An old broken chair. A faded mural of a swan on the brick wall. But something about it felt wrong. Like I was walking into a crime scene where the crime was emotional theft. Then I saw her scarf, wedged under a recycling bin. I recognized it instantly, a mustard-colored thing with little navy specks. She hated how it looked on her, but kept it because I said she looked beautiful in it once. She must have dropped it getting into the car. I picked it up. It still smelled like her perfume. And right underneath it, barely tucked under a plastic lid, was a folded receipt. I unfolded it with trembling fingers. It was from a boutique flower shop, not the kind you go to for cheap roses, but the one where you pick arrangements based on the feeling you want them to express. The order? For RT, congratulations on choosing yourself. Handwritten in blue ink. It was dated 2 days before the party. There was no signature. Just that awful phrase that wouldn't stop echoing. Choosing yourself. I stood there, scarf in one hand, receipt in the other, and for a moment I honestly wondered if I'd died weeks ago and just hadn't noticed. Because this wasn't my life. This wasn't how my story was supposed to go. I was the guy who bought groceries, kept the gas tank full, tried not to snore too loudly. I was never dramatic. I didn't cheat. I didn't lie. I didn't even have a plan B. She did, though. Renee had a plan. And someone out there knew it well enough to leave clues like breadcrumbs. When I got back in my car, a second message waited. She's not who you think she is. Check your mailbox at home. Right now. No name. No explanation. But I drove straight there, because if I didn't, I'd probably never sleep again. And what I found inside that mailbox, let's just say it wasn't mail. It was a setup. I wasn't even parked all the way before I jumped out and rushed toward the mailbox. The engine still running, the door half closed. I didn't care. My legs were moving faster than my mind, my breath coming short like I was about to uncover a body. And maybe, in a way, I was. The house was quiet. Not dark, just hollow. I hadn't been home since the night of the party, and yet nothing looked different. The porch light still flickered like it always did when it was damp outside. The neighbor's dog barked once from behind a fence, and my front door stood there like it didn't know I was the wrong man now. I unlocked the mailbox and opened it slowly, expecting maybe a letter, a USB stick, a printout, but instead, it was a plain manila envelope. Thick, bulging slightly. No postage. No writing. Whoever put it there didn't want it traveling far. I looked around. No cars I recognized. No footsteps on the sidewalk. Whoever left it had already vanished. I brought it back to my car, shut the door this time, and peeled the flap open like it might bite me. Inside were 2 things, a flash drive and a Polaroid photo. Not a digital print, a real Polaroid. The kind that develops in your hand. I stared at the photo first, and instantly felt like my chest had been torn open. It was her. Renee, lying on a motel bed I didn't recognize. Sheets wrinkled, hair wild, wearing my old college hoodie, The one I thought I lost at the laundromat months ago. She was asleep, or pretending to be, her hand resting across someone else's stomach. That someone's face wasn't visible, just part of his torso, bare skin, and unmistakably not mine. The timestamp on the bottom was dated 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks. That wasn't a moment of weakness. That was routine. I felt something hot rise in my throat, but I swallowed it down because the flash drive in my other hand suddenly weighed 10 times heavier. I didn't open it in the car. I couldn't. I needed space. So I drove to my friend Theo's garage, the one place where secrets didn't echo. He was out of town for the weekend, but he'd given me the key years ago when I helped him install a new water heater. I parked inside, shut the door, and plugged the flash drive into my backup laptop. My hands were shaking again. There were 3 video files. No labels. Just timestamps. The first was from a hotel parking lot. Grainy, filmed from a distance, maybe through a car window, but clear enough to recognize her laugh as she got out of Clay's car, adjusted her skirt, and kissed him like they weren't hiding anything at all. The second video was inside the hotel lobby. Security footage? Hidden cam? I don't know. But there they were again. Hand in hand. No fear. No guilt. Like they were on vacation and not 2 people detonating someone's life with every step. And then the third video. The shortest one. It was from a phone. Shaky. Up close. Filmed through a cracked doorway, like the person was standing just outside a hotel room. You could hear her voice. Renee. She was talking fast, breathy, whispering. He's clueless. He still thinks I'm just tired all the time. I'm only waiting for the money to clear, and then I'm gone. No drama. Just gone. The voice that answered her was not Clay. It was another man. Older. Calm. Measured. He said, "Well, make sure he doesn't find this place, or it's going to get messy." That's when I paused the video. Because up until that moment, I thought I was dealing with a tragic affair. The kind that ruins people emotionally. But now it sounded like a plan. Something bigger. Something coordinated. And Renee wasn't just being unfaithful. She was building an exit. One that involved lies, other men, hidden properties, and God knows what else. I sat in that garage until the sun dropped behind the treetops and the air turned too cold to breathe properly. Then my phone buzzed again. Same number. "You're not safe in that house. She thinks you've seen nothing. She's almost ready." Almost ready for what? What had I walked into? I didn't drive back home that night. I couldn't. Every creak of that house would have sounded like a setup. Every drawer could have held something meant to trap me. The message kept repeating in my head. She thinks you've seen nothing. She's almost ready. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever she was almost ready for had very little to do with leaving me and far more to do with making sure I didn't stop her. So I drove. Nowhere in particular. Just kept the car moving while my thoughts dragged behind me like chains. And then I remembered something small. Stupid, really. 2 months ago, Renee had come home annoyed. Said her work laptop had died and she had to stop by the unit to pick up a spare. I asked what unit, and she brushed it off. Just one of the company's storage spots. But the next day, I saw the receipt on our counter. A rental from Woodvale Personal Lockups, rented in her name only. She never mentioned it again, and I never asked. Until now. It was 20 miles outside the city, tucked behind a gas station and a mechanic's shop. The sign was half-lit, the kind that buzzes faintly and never gets fixed. I parked under a dying street lamp and stared through the locked gate. Then I remembered. Months ago, Renee had added me as a backup contact in case of emergency and gave me a key fob to keep in the glove compartment. I still had it. I scanned it at the gate. It let me in. Her unit was 117. On the second floor. I walked past row after row of metal roll-up doors, each one silent as a grave, until I found it. Her lock was new, clean, no rust. But her mistake was thinking I'd never question her long enough to get this far. The key from our house still fit. I lifted the door slowly and froze. It wasn't a messy storage space full of old furniture and dusty boxes. It was organized, labeled, lined with shelves, files, binders, flash drives, and a black suitcase. I opened the suitcase first. Inside were clothes, but not random extras. They were curated. 2 full outfits, a new toothbrush still in plastic, a passport, her birth certificate, a prepaid phone, and a wad of cash banded with a bank logo I didn't recognize. And taped to the inside of the lid was a checklist. Each item ticked off in blue ink. Except the last one. Retrieve Curtis's signature. I dropped the suitcase like it burned my hands. My name. On a list. Underlined. She was planning something official. Legal. And I wasn't supposed to know. My stomach twisted with the cold realization that whatever she was orchestrating, it wasn't just a vanishing act. It was a surgical removal. I dug through the shelves. One binder was labeled T-Exit. Inside were scanned documents, bank transfers, property agreements, blank forms with forged-looking signatures, including one that mirrored mine exactly. She'd practiced. There were copies of our joint tax returns, notes in the margins, and under one sticky note, I found a reference number, a courier tracking number. I looked it up on my phone. Delivered 3 days ago. Recipient, Aaron Wakefield. Attorney. I didn't know the name, but I would. Soon. Because right then, another text came in. This time from a new number. Different area code. She's expecting you to lose your temper. Don't. Watch the video I just sent. Then go to drawer 2E. Attached was another clip. Short. Under 10 seconds. It showed a woman, Renee, inside a bank lobby, signing something on a clipboard, then taking an envelope from a man in a gray vest. She smiled the whole time. Date. 2 days before the party. And the man in the vest? He was Aaron Wakefield. I put my phone down and turned to the label drawers. Found the one marked 2E in thick Sharpie. Inside was an old photo. Us. On our wedding day. But it had been altered. She'd scratched something on the back in that same blue ink. It read, "This was the last time I ever lied happily." What does that even mean? What lie? Why write it now? My hands were shaking again. My face felt like it belonged to someone else, someone older, thinner, defeated. And then my phone buzzed one more time. Same new number. She's planning to erase you, Curtis. Not just leave you. She wants to make it like you were never there. Go to the cabin. But we didn't own a cabin. We never did. Except her uncle had one. Up north. She hated it. Said it gave her bad memories. We hadn't been there in years. So why was that the next destination? What was waiting for me there? And who or what was already inside? The drive to the cabin was long enough for my mind to start splintering in every direction. Each mile of cracked asphalt and leaning trees peeled back a different version of the woman I thought I married. The one who used to make me soup when I was sick. The one who left notes on my steering wheel when I was stressed. The one who once cried because she dreamed I had died and couldn't live without me. I kept asking myself, was any of it real? Or had I been cast in a play I didn't audition for? The sun had nearly vanished by the time I turned off the highway. The road leading to the cabin hadn't been repaved in decades, maybe never. Branches scratched at my car as I crawled through the final half-mile of forest, and a fog was starting to rise in the low pockets of earth, making the trees look like shadows frozen mid-screen. I almost turned around, but then I saw it. A single bulb above the door. On. The cabin hadn't been used in years, I was sure of it. Renee always changed the subject when I brought it up, said the place was full of mold and bad energy. But someone had been here recently. That bulb wasn't just working, it was warm. Someone had turned it on from inside. I parked at the bottom of the hill and walked the rest of the way. The ground crunched beneath my shoes, soft with rot and wet leaves. The front door wasn't locked. It creaked open without resistance. And what I saw made my whole body go cold. The walls were covered in photos. Hundreds of them. Taped. Pinned. Overlapping. Like a crime board from a movie, but the subject wasn't a killer or a missing person. It was me. Photos from every stage of my life. Elementary class pictures. A DMV snapshot I don't even remember taking. Me at a gas station 3 weeks ago. Me watching TV through the living room window. Me asleep at my desk. Who took these? How? And more importantly, why? I took a step inside and noticed something else. There was audio playing. A looped recording. Coming from an old speaker in the corner of the room, tucked behind a blanket. I pressed play again from the beginning. It was Renee's voice. "I need the separation to be clean," she said. "Emotionally, legally, financially. If he reacts, there's a folder in the trunk. Use that." Another voice, the man from the hotel video, replied, "And if he doesn't react?" She laughed. She laughed. Then he was never really real to begin with. That sentence almost knocked me over. Not just the cruelty of it, but the calm with which she said it. Like she was discussing a guest list. Like I'd just been this placeholder figure until she found someone willing to help her reboot her life completely, without the deadweight. There was a door at the back of the cabin. It was open a crack. I stepped toward it, still trembling, expecting to find more boxes, maybe another suitcase, more notes. Instead, I found a small cot. a space heater, and a corkboard with a single page pinned to the center. A legal declaration. Application for spousal nullification due to identity conflict. What the hell was that? I'd never heard of such a thing. But it was stamped, signed, notarized, filed 2 months ago. It wasn't a divorce. It was like erasure. Like she was trying to prove I had never existed in her life in any meaningful way. That I had no right to anything. No assets. No shared memories. Nothing to claim, because in the eyes of her new narrative, I was a ghost. The door slammed. Not behind me. The front door. Someone was here. I rushed back through the living room, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear my own steps. There was a car outside now. Black. Sleek. Lights off. The driver's side door opened, and Renee stepped out, wearing a jacket I didn't recognize, holding her phone in one hand, not looking surprised, not even a little. Her eyes met mine like she'd been waiting for this moment, like this was part of her schedule. She didn't say a word. She walked up the steps, looked past me at the photos on the walls, then finally spoke. "You weren't supposed to find this place," she said. I opened my mouth to ask why go to these lengths, why destroy someone who only ever tried to love her. But I never got the chance. Because before I could say anything, she turned her head toward the woods behind the cabin and said quietly, "You can come out now. He's seen it all." And the footsteps I heard behind me weren't hers. They belonged to someone I hadn't seen before. But he knew me, and he was holding something that would change everything. The man who stepped out of the woods wasn't who I expected, but somehow I knew him. I didn't recognize his face, not exactly, but I recognized his posture, his energy, the subtle smugness that slithered through his movements like he was walking into a scene he'd already rehearsed. Black jacket, clean cut, hands buried in his coat pockets. He stopped 3 steps from me and looked around at the photos on the walls. "She told me you'd never come here," he said. "Told me you were too timid, too safe." I glanced at Renee. She didn't flinch. No guilt, no panic, just a cold detachment, like all of this had played out exactly as she'd imagined it. "Who are you?" I asked, though deep down I already understood, not his name, maybe, but his purpose. "I'm the next chapter," he said. Or, I was supposed to be. And that's when everything changed. Because I laughed. Not the kind of laugh that comes from humor, the kind that rises from deep exhaustion, from finally seeing the full map of someone else's deception and realizing, you're still standing. "You know what?" I said, stepping past both of them. "Keep the damn cabin. Keep your lies. Keep your forged documents and your pathetic plan B." They both looked at me, confused. Renee opened her mouth to say something, but I cut her off. "You wanted me to break down. You wanted me to scream, to cry, to fall apart so you could point at the mess and say, 'See? This is why I had to get out.' But I'm not giving you that. Not anymore." I turned toward the door and walked out. For the first time in weeks, maybe years, I felt light. Because I realized something right there on those creaking wooden steps. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need answers from people who built entire worlds on lies. I just needed freedom. The next morning, I filed every document I had. Sent the videos, the photos, the forged signatures to my attorney. A good one. Smart, honest, and not easily intimidated. Within 48 hours, emergency orders were issued. Her accounts were flagged. The notarized nullification attempt? Rejected. Fabricated. Criminal investigation opened. And the man from the woods? Turns out he had quite the resume, 3 different aliases, a record sealed in 2 states, and enough buried skeletons that law enforcement had questions. Big ones. Renee was served within the week. But I didn't show up to watch her unravel. I didn't need to. I was somewhere else, sipping black coffee from a paper cup, the kind that burns your fingertips just enough to remind you you're alive. Sitting across from a woman I'd met by accident at the grocery store, of all places. She smiled when I spilled cherries on the floor, and we laughed like 2 people who'd never been lied to. It was nothing serious yet, but it was honest. And after everything, after all the darkness, all the nights spent staring at ceilings wondering how love rots without making a sound, honesty felt like the rarest luxury. Renee's story? It's over. And mine? Mine's just beginning.